William Shakespeare. One of the reasons why his plays are so universally held in such high regard even today is because their themes are universal. They apply to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Yeah. The best writers are the ones who really understand the human condition. And they're like, oh yeah, this could be fantastic. This could be written by a Persian. This could be written by a Peruvian. It's all the same. So now it's the darkness. It's actually kind of hard to see anything because everything is pitch black and they don't have a flashlight, which is kind of strange.
Oh, come on. You know exactly where everything is.
No, I know. From a game sense, yes. But from a if I was in this situation kind of sense, I would at least appreciate a flashlight.
This would be where we find ghosts.
These were, I forget. They were involved in the Possum Massacre.
It's kind of sad being forgotten when you die. They say that when you die, you continue to live on as long as no one forgets you, or
yeah, as long as your breath is still, or your name is still spoken, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the only time that you truly die is the last time your name is said, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that's one way to put it. Like your physical body is dead, but your legacy lives on. I think these were some of the bad guys, the National Guard who was against the mining group.
Well, good guy and bad guy is kind of subjective, don't you think? I'm sure the bad guys didn't think they were bad guys.
Let's put it this way. There is fighting for equality and justice and progressiveness, and then there's fighting against it. And I mean, if you're going to take a moral stand to say this side is good, this side is bad, you don't necessarily have to use those terms, but you can definitely use a word like, these guys were against us having a good living condition, these guys were for us having a good living condition. And you can draw your own conclusions from there based on what you want, you know? May likes that word, spooky.
Well, the bad guys that didn't want the good living conditions probably just didn't want to spend the money. And I'm sure in their case, that puts them in the right.
In their mind, everyone is the good guy. Nobody is the villain of their own story.
Yeah, exactly. Being good, being a good guy and being a bad guy, it's entirely subjective. I mean, no one wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm going to be a huge asshole to everyone.
Well, unless they're May. We're up really high. Don't push me.
We're really high, Angus. Far out.
Whoa. Yes.
The stars are awfully visible.
Well, that's what happens when you live in a place with no pollution. You know, most of the time the reason we can't see the stars is because of light pollution, literally.
I'm aware. It's just that... Is Possum Springs really so small that it's emitting so little light pollution that you can see this many stars?
So yeah, I'd say so. It's. I mean, how do you classify? This is pretty much rural, dude. Like, there's not a lot of town and source of light, especially now that the many of the mines have shut down. You know.
Well, I used to live in a rural town outside of Halifax, something like 20-30 minutes driving distance away. And it comes down to, I guess, how rural the community is and how far away from a major city, I guess major in relative context, would be in order for it to create such light pollution that you won't be able to see the stars. So in this case,
we can assume that Possum Springs is like really far away from any major urban center.
No.
Remember that time we were all at that longest night bonfire? And we spotted the constellations together?
25 episodes ago?
No, this is not a recollection that we have had, Maple Leaf. We've never had a bonfire. We had a party around a fire. That was not a bonfire that Angus was pointing up to stars and going, that constellation.
I mean, it could have been. You didn't know what May was up to in between the drinks.
In between stressing out about talking to her ex and talking to B and going, hey B, you're kind of a grouchy drunk.
There's no such thing as a fake constellation. Just ask Animal Crossing. In that game, if you went to the museum at night, you could make your own constellations.
Find me some constellations.
That's what we're gonna do, isn't it?
Yeah. We're gonna be tracing constellations for Angus to identify for us.
Alright, so the one on the right, it looks like a slanted hammer, or maybe a slanted one of those really old-timey ironing bars for clothes.
Okay.
And on the one on the left...
Is the Big Dipper.
No, it's not.
It's a pan.
No.
Yes.
The one on the left is a question mark that got bored halfway through.
It's a question mark that turned itself around to be like, I'm not like any other question mark. I'm my own man. Telescopes are cool. Wish I had a telescope. You know, Angus and that Mr. Chazakov guy should really get together sometime.
That's gross.
No, not like that.
Mr. Chazakov is old enough to be Angus's dad. That's it? That's our entire canvas?
We have a big well, we have enough space. I'm not going to say how many constellations, but not as many as you think.
Well, that's exactly the point. The problem, though, is that we have very few stars to work with in this little itty-bitty canvas.
I thought that we had to make our own constellations, but no, it turns out some stars connect to other stars, because May is the one remembering what they look like. So for a little bit, I have a little bit of trial and error to find out, is this the right constellation? Is this good? Or no? The game just says no. Wrong.
So we're playing connect the dots rather than make your own.
Exactly. We're playing connect the dots with constellations that we're given ahead of time, but we don't even have the numbers.
Well, fuck, that's not nearly as interesting.
I thought we had to make like a giant cat because it looks like cat ears, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try every little one because constellations are small. They're like 4 or 5 stars at most. And there you go.
It's the Pope.
It's a Pope. It's the fire-breathing one. Rubello, I think his name was.
He breathes fire.
Dude is real. I don't think we've ever had a fire-breathing Pope in our history. We had a guy who was cadaver synod, who was dug up when he was dead, and they had a court session for him to prosecute him when he was already a corpse. But that was, I think, the strangest Pope we've had.
Did your family go to church, or did you not know your saints at all?
Nah, it's a bit like, come on. It's like, dude, not everybody's a Catholic, May. Did your family go to church is more, please, tell me about your family, because apparently Greg hates their guts.
Well, I mean, he's gay. The church doesn't like the gays. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, it depends on what church you're talking about. Some churches are really like, oh yeah, we're super hippie progressive. Others are like, fucking fire and brimstone those gays, you know? She pretends not to. That's very honest of May. Just to understand her mom is like, oh god, my daughter's a heathen. Why does she not go to church?
It's the same one, but on its side. It's a kitty!
It's a cat. He's got arrows sticking out of him.
That's an awful lot of detail for 6 stars.
Dude, constellations are always like this. Haven't you ever seen a constellation guide? They just say, oh yeah, these stars are totally the sword. These stars are totally the legs between the leg and the arm. It's like, no. It's like fucking ancient Greeks and whatever. They're like, yeah, these combination of stars, we need a good combination to get a good picture, you know?
Well, I do remember seeing constellation guides, but I remember most of the constellations that I saw. Well, this was back when I was a kid. I had not a particularly strong attention span. And I saw these guides, and I would look at a guide for, it was some kind of goddess. I don't remember who. But it looked really fucking complicated. And I just looked at it and I thought, there's no way I'm going to make the effort to memorize this so I can look for it in the sky. I'm just going to look up the Big Dipper and memorize that one, because that one's pretty easy.
If there's one star you should memorize, it's the Polaris, the North Star. But that's only if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you actually see an entirely different constellation. You see an entirely different sky. So Brazil, you know, it's like, oh yeah, the Southern Cross. And it's like, when I come up here, I'm like, look, where's the Southern Cross? And they're like, what the fuck is that?
That's interesting how the world is like that, eh?
Yeah. So this cat was apparently so sneaky and so fast that when he died, he was able to escape his own body. That's pretty metal.
Didn't we talk about this guy once before, though?
Who, this guy?
Yeah.
No, these constellations have nothing to do with the stars we found. We were finding dusk stars with Mr. Chazakov. Now we're finding constellations. There's a slight difference. The people that we've met were the seer and the woman who defied the gods and burned, who killed the king, all that stuff, you know?
It's the Triforce of Power.
It's a bell with an eye. It's a Sheikah bell.
I like mine better. I don't know how much you know about Breath of the Wild, but the Sheikah take fucking front row center role in that story.
I actually don't know anything about it. But I do know it's like the Sheikah Slate and the Sheikah Tower, and the eye is everywhere.
Yeah. They were fucking busy in Hyrule. Compared to, like, I don't know a lot about Zelda lore past before Ocarina of Time. I played pretty much all the Zelda games. All the mainstream ones anyway, not any of the handheld ones. I've been meaning to play Minish Cap because I have it for free on my 3DS. But, I played Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, friggin' Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, you know, all the console games. And never before Breath of the Wild have the Sheikah been this...
prevalent.
Prevalent, forefront to the plot. Well,
you know, Nintendo sometimes like, we need a new story for why Hyrule's fucked up this time. Okay, Sheikahs, let's do it. It's a boat.
It's a crown. We're both wrong.
It's a whale.
It's a whale with people living on them.
And it's got like the world on its back.
One of my favorite creationist theories is, I think it's Old Norse, where it's
Yggdrasil or whatever.
It's something like 4 elephants on the back of a giant turtle on the back of a giant...
No, that's not Norse, dude. That's from the Discworld. That's Terry Pratchett.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It's the 4 elephants on a turtle that moves through the sky, and the Discworld is perched on the back of the 4 elephants.
Man, I'm a big old dummy.
You should really read the Discworld series. They're legitimately good books. You gotta wonder why people made these up.
I tried reading a Terry Pratchett novel recently, and it opened with a soda machine being a legit character. And I immediately thought, that's pretty out there.
Terry Pratchett was a pretty out there guy, but he has... You know when I was talking earlier about people who know the human condition? Pratchett's one of those guys. He really understands the world, even though he writes comedy. Whales are pretty big. That's why they carry the world? Or they didn't know what the Earth was. That's probably the better one, because it's like, yeah, people didn't know fucking anything back then. We just still don't know some stuff.
Yeah, but you saying that you don't know what the world is, or what the Earth is, that's kind of shitting on them, don't you think?
Well, no, I mean, the whole point of being human is that you can look back in the past and sneer, oh, those rubes. We're like way out here, huh?
Talking about constellations, listening to some good music.
In the park? Yeah, I guess. This is actually if Angus and May were like hetero and they were like single and looking to date, this would be a pretty good date spot. Like sit back, look for constellations.
That'd be kind of weird. Although, isn't this the place where, like, isn't this Makeout Point?
It is.
Alright. So, well, there you go. That's a redundant statement then, Olive Branch.
But I'm just saying, the idea. Here's a first date tip, guys. The stranger, the better. For one of my exes, I actually went out. Our first date was a walk through a cemetery, a big freaking cemetery, and it was actually pretty good. It was a good date.
Did you? Well, no.
Yeah, when I was a kid. Well, everyone who when I was a kid were not trying to get superpowers and stuff to be special. Come on.
You know, I pulled off the Kamehameha once. I mean, don't try to deny that you...
I tried Hadouken. I was Street Fighter.
Yeah. Oh, Hadouken?
Hadouken!
Alright, that's... Yeah, I'll accept that. But everyone, when they were a kid, they tried a Hadouken or a Kamehameha at least once. The only difference is that I did it.
I parted the sea.
I didn't use it to part the sea.
What'd you use it for?
I just shot it, just like in my school playground.
Sweet. My dad didn't like me. Oh, Angus, I'm sorry, dude.
Cause he was gay, or
and my mom didn't either.
cause she was gay, or
and like,
well, all right then.
he will talk about it.
You know, sometimes it's just good to talk about it.
My dad used to hit me a lot.
Oh, good.
And my mom was probably worse. She wouldn't feed me. Which is why I really like cooking now, haha. That's not a good laugh.
That's pretty intense.
She'd shove me into the pantry.
And lock them in.
Pretty much, actually.
You want the food?
And slam the door really hard.
There's all the food that you could want.
And all this stuff would fall off the shelves on top of me.
It's kind of... I don't know, this seems like maybe a short-sighted criticism of this game. For like a day at a time sometimes, but a lot of these characters in Possum Springs, I mean, I realize that Possum Springs is a dying town and no one's happy with where they are and they all want to get out and all that, but just the fact that there isn't a single character in this game so far that doesn't have like a tragic backstory or an extremely crippling personality trait or something like that. Like Angus, or not Angus, Greg likes to stab people to pass the time. That's not healthy.
But we already discussed the fact that Greg's issue is that he is depressive. He's got mood swings and he feels like he's going nowhere.
That's exactly the point, though. B is also a sad sack in that her mom is dead. It's just that there isn't a single feel-good character in this story, and I realize that that might be more realistic coming from a place like
Possum Springs?
Possum Springs, yeah, but still, just I kind of feel like, I don't know,
that everybody it's a bit dramatic, overly dramatic, because everybody has a problem.
Yeah, I feel like it's trying to play to our heartstrings just a little too extremely.
Well, it's possible. I mean, the fact is that every character in this game, like you mentioned, every main character does have issues. But I think the game is trying to point out the fact that we all have issues of our own. It's just a question of variety of issues. I mean, these are just the more extreme ones. I mean, for God's sake, Angus is admitting or bringing up the fact that he was abused as a kid. Can I go kick all of their asses? May has had a violent past of literally putting a kid in the hospital.
This is the part where Angus admits that he's already killed them or something.
No, he's not. It's not. But, you raise a good question about saying, is it because they all come from a shitty environment that they themselves are broken people? And, it's very likely. It's very likely that there are a lot of problems. I mean, it's people who are born or who grow up in environments that are extreme or that are, in the end, ultimately horrible for them. It takes a toll on the human psyche, and everyone is affected. So I know it's nature versus nurture, but I mean, you can have the most loving parents in the world, but if the situation they're put into can test them, there's no guarantee that they'll be very patient with their kids and all that, I mean, have you read Between the World and Me?
Nope.
Have you heard of it before?
Nope.
Okay, last question. Do you know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is?
Why would I know that if I didn't know the first two?
Because quick note. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a black writer. He's a black American, currently living in Paris, I believe, and he wrote a very powerful essay in The Atlantic called "The Case for Reparations," speaking about slavery and all that, speaking about like how America must come to terms with its slaving past, and address the fact that a lot of the wealth of the nation was built on the backs and the blood of human beings who happen to be black. And reparations is a big topic that he brought up. And another thing he pointed out is the fact that he pointed out the apparatus of white America is basically still built on the oppressing the black community, and how police are taught to destroy and fear the black body. Because if you destroy the body, you die. You destroy the person. And the book Between the World and Me is basically Ta-Nehisi Coates' letter to his, at the time, I think, 11-year-old son. And he was basically trying to just say, look, bro, you're gonna learn sooner or later that people will hate you, you will be accosted by the police, you will be in trouble simply because of the color of your skin and racism. The book is powerful because it brings up the fact that no matter how rich you are or how poor you are, nature and other people's prejudice will get to you, And he brought up his own thing. I mean, you think that Ta-Nehisi Coates, he's a smart writer, he's a good writer, but he says, I grew up in an environment which was terrible. My family tried to do the best for me, but, the environment itself, living in the ghetto, like having to join a gang to try to prove that he was tough to other kids, that takes a toll on you. So that's, I think you were saying earlier, why does everybody in this game have a friggin' problem, And again, I think it comes down to where you live. Possum Springs is certainly not the place that you want to bring your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell.
I get it.
I mean, it's kind of an answer to your criticism, although I could see like the thing is like everyone has a melodramatic backstory. Everyone is an OC who got kick-started in the game.
It's just like, I get what you're saying, that it's the nurture of the environment, Possum Springs, that forces these bad backstories, or rather melodramatic backstories, on these characters. But it also feels like a trap that some artists fall into, is that in order to make like an intense character, or in order to make the reader feel something akin to empathy for the characters in the story, they just have to have a shitty time.
Okay, but let's say it like this. I'd say that the writers of this game made a success in making us like Angus and empathize with him before we learned about this. It's not that they came straight up and said Angus was abused. Greg hinted, he said he doesn't come from the best family, they suck. And it's like, why? Because he's gay? I mean, you even brought it up, it's like, because he's gay? It's like, no. He literally was just not liked as a kid. He was abused for just being. So we empathize with Angus simply because he's like, oh yeah, he's a cool guy, he likes science, and oh my god, we learn now he was abused. But we still empathize with him regardless.
Well, if we already empathized with him when we realized that he was cool and he liked science and all that, why did we need this sad story foisted upon us?
Well, not just a sad story that was foisted on you. It's more like a conversation topic because May is the one who brought it up to be like, do you believe in ghosts?
The ghost is right behind him.
I know he is. I know he is. Don't look at him. Who?
The guy standing right behind us.
There's someone standing behind us. In the trees. Holy shit.
Well, I mean, now they know.
Holy shit. What do they look like?
It's the dude. Ah, he looks like a ghost. I just don't believe him.
Tall, wearing some kind of weird coat. Like a utility coat or something.
So this is probably going to be a theme that keeps up with B and Greg, too.
Oh god, that's the ghost. I'm more worried about it being a living person.
You know, that's true.
Standing in the woods, staring at us.
Typically, a living person will do more damage to you than a dead guy. Alright, so what's the plan?
Well, don't panic.
You get up and start walking backwards. If you don't look at him, then he can't hurt you.
Hey there!
Lovely weather.
Out for a hike? Nice night. He's not answering.
How do you know it's a he?
That's a little hostile, right? That's definitely a little hostile.
Well, there's only one way to handle this.
Hey!
Get him, May.
I know what you did last summer.
Kidnap that person.
May, no.
Cut off that other person's arm.
I saw you! Okay, well, we're gonna run now.
There's only one place you can run, and it's straight backwards.
We need to get to the car.
And that's not good. It's a long way down. It's not gonna help, bud.
I got an inhaler, the good kind, too.
It's not gonna help. Been there.
He ran cross country, bro. No one in heaven or earth can stop me. Okay, let's go.
Why don't you just fucking sock him in the face?
Deep breaths.
It's a video game. That's what you're supposed to do in video games, right?
In. Out. Alright.
I wonder what Angus's opinion is on May's story. I'm sure he still doesn't think that ghosts exist or anything. But more that he believes May when she says that something intense is fucking happening. They're chasing after them. Get in the car. Okay, they're in the car.
Angus's hat's clipping through the roof.
Don't worry about it.
You okay, big guy? Yeah, he's a what is he, like 6'2"? He's huge.
It's pretty tall. Either that or May is incredibly short.
Everyone's a big guy to her. He's resilient, he's tough, he's got a big ass.
He is a bear.
So that was it. That was the ghost.
He's like, nah.
Or it was some weirdo who lives out there.
Well, there you go.
They probably get a lot of kids throwing back parties back there.
I mean, it is make out. Actually, no, that's even scarier. It's a guy stalking Makeout Point.
That wasn't too far from there. Why does nobody believe me? May, it's like every other explanation is more likely.
If I were Angus, I'd believe the part where she says she saw someone get kidnapped and possibly, like, murdered or whatever.
instead of it saying being a ghost.
Yeah, the ghost part I would still be skeptical of if I were Angus, but everything else I would believe. If May came up to me and said, I need you to believe me, I saw someone get kidnapped, then fuck yeah. If I saw something as scary as that, then yeah, I'd believe her.
That was scary. I wonder if she's getting headaches because of hauntings or something. Point to consider, I guess.
Maybe.
But it was scary. It was indeed scary.